Sister Wives Kody Brown admits raising children in cult. Sister Wives patriarch Kody Brown opened up about his experience with the church in the past that has him on edge about Robin Brown and her girls returning. While he still has faith, he thinks religion spoils the experience. Seemingly, he shocks fans after he admits he has been raising his children in a cult. Kody Brown shares his church phobia. In the latest episode of Sister Wives, Kody Brown unearths some of his phobias of religion and churches. While he's on a date night with Robin Brown, she clarifies, "So you have some apprehension." Then she asks him to tell her what exactly he is concerned about. In a confessional, he admits he has his own anxieties, fears, and struggles that come up when he thinks about Brianna and Aurora looking for a church. He acknowledges he has to keep those from poisoning their experience. But he admits he feels like he needs to steer them clear of any culty-like churches. Kody Brown admits raising children in cult. On Reddit, Sister Wives fans point out something they never thought Kody Brown would admit. First, a user says, "Kody, never thought I'd hear him say this. Something profoundly obvious to everyone but himself and Sobin." In a clip, Kody is talking to Robin Brown about wanting to take Aurora and Brianna church shopping. In his roundabout way of answering, he begins to reflect on his experience with the church. He says, "You're getting into something that turns out to be kind of culty." In a confessional, he continues, "You can lose your children to a bad marriage. You can lose your children to just huge disagreements between the two of you." He adds to his train of thought, "You can lose your children in a divorce, or you can lose your children to a cult." Another fan says, "I found this whole episode to be really interesting, honestly. Lots of real talk. Him letting us all know that he's realized he was in a cult. Literally never thought that would happen. And he's saying it to Robin, who seems to still buy into it. She looked uncomfortable, and I'd love to see more of that." This episode had moments that were closest to reality that we've gotten in years, I think. I hate to admit this because I despise that man, but Kody ranting about culty religions was the most interesting part of the episode. Most people originally tuned into the show to gawk at people in a cult lore. Now that they've left the cult, I'd like to hear more of them discuss that instead of their wedding dress for the 500th time. But he'd be happy if his children joined mainstream LDS church, which is also a high-demand religion. So many ways to lose children. While Kody Brown was making the point that not every church can be taken at face value, he brings up many ways someone can lose their children. Sister Wives fans were quick to point out a few more he missed. Another commenter says, "Or you can lose your children by being a dick." This, you can lose your children if you make zero effort to have a relationship with them. You don't call them and wish them a happy birthday. You don't call them to say hello. You don't see them. You don't make any effort to see your grandchildren. So many ways. You can lose your children because you abuse and neglect them. Kody Brown will never learn. After the initial post, some Sister Wives viewers interpreted Kody Brown as blaming other churches as the cult culprits. But someone else thinks Kody Brown will never learn. They said, "Honestly, I only read this on him as speaking of his kids as the current ones only, and the cult is an of a church, not his old one. I don't think he realizes anything." That's how I took it too. I don't think he sees his version of Mormonism as a cult. He hasn't deconstructed it enough as a whole. He grew up with the faith being ingrained as truth, which is much harder to untangle than someone who did not. I think he sees evangelicalism as a cult, and I don't disagree that it has some weird elements. But he is not able to see that his own faith is often considered to be a cult. It's easier to point fingers at other cults to see them as cults and weird as one's own. Scientology is clearly a cult, but I'm not in one, even though there are some clear similarities. I think he realizes he screwed up, but he's not all the way there yet. The Arizona sun bore down relentlessly as Kody Brown, the charismatic yet divisive patriarch of TLC's Sister Wives, sat down for what would be his most shocking interview yet. Gone was the confident, flowing-haired man viewers had come to know over the years. In his place sat a visibly weary Kody, his eyes heavy with an unspoken burden. It was on this day that Kody would utter words that no one saw coming, an admission that his approach to raising his children may have resembled, in his own words, a cult. The revelation came during a sit-down with a popular podcaster known for her deep dives into polygamy and religious sex. Kody, dressed in his usual jeans and a plaid shirt, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here saying this," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "But looking back at the way I've raised my kids and the environment I created, I can't help but wonder. Was it too controlling? Too insular? Was I running a cult without realizing it?" The room fell silent. Even the podcaster, known for her unflappable demeanor, seemed momentarily stunned. A family built on faith and control. The Browns have always presented themselves as a polygamous family rooted in faith. Over the years, Kody and his 4 wives, Mary, Janelle, Cristin, and Robin, have spoken openly about their belief in the principle, a religious conviction that calls for plural marriage as a pathway to spiritual fulfillment. But as Kody's 18 children grew older and began forging their own paths, cracks in the family's idyllic facade became increasingly evident. Kody's admission was spurred, he explained, by a conversation with his daughter Gwendolyn. The outspoken young woman had recently referred to her upbringing as restrictive and like being in a bubble. Her words cut deep. "I love my kids more than anything," Kody said, his voice breaking. "But when Gwen said that, it forced me to take a hard look at myself. Was I too focused on keeping them in line? Too focused on this idea of what a family should look like, according to my beliefs?" The confession sent shockwaves through the Sister Wives fan base. For years, viewers had speculated about the dynamics within the Brown family, with many criticizing Kody for his seemingly authoritarian approach to parenting. But hearing it from the man himself was a different matter entirely. Behind closed doors, the rules of the Brown household. Kody's control over his family's daily lives was evident in many of the show's earlier seasons. From strict curfews to rules about dating and modest clothing, the Brown children, particularly the girls, often chafed under their father's watchful eye. While Kody and his wives defended these rules as necessary for maintaining their family's values, some of the children's recent revelations paint a more complicated picture. Madison, one of Janelle's daughters, once shared during a Q&A session that she felt immense pressure to conform to her father's expectations. "It was like there was no room to question anything," she said. "If you did, you were made to feel like you were betraying the family." In the interview, Kody acknowledged that he may have unintentionally fostered an environment where questioning the family's beliefs felt like an act of rebellion. "I thought I was protecting them," he explained, "but maybe I was just afraid of losing control." Cristin's exit. The catalyst for change. Cristin Brown, Kody's 3rd wife and a fan favorite, made headlines when she announced her decision to leave the family. Her departure, which was chronicled in the show's recent seasons, marked a turning point for the Brown family. Cristin's choice to prioritize her own happiness over the family's unity emboldened many of the Brown children to reevaluate their own lives. Cristin's daughter, Isabel, for instance, has spoken about how her mother's decision inspired her to question the dynamics she grew up with. "Seeing my mom take control of her life made me realize that I don't have to accept everything the way it is," she said in a social media post. Kody admitted that Cristin's departure was a wake-up call. "When Cristin left, it forced me to confront the fact that not everyone was happy. I couldn't just keep pretending that everything was fine."